Start of the game, definitely. You know, again, and that's all we've talked about all year, really. That's all, and we just continue to talk about it. And it's pretty much the same guys that continue to do it. And you know, early in the game, we're an inside-out team, and we put the ball in there and give them credit for knocking the ball loose some, which they shouldn't do. We're doing what we need to do, but we fought back and in the first half, and they stretched it back out. But we told our guys at halftime we're going to be fine. We'll come out and defend a little bit better and just take care of the ball. And I think what the second half proved, we had 2 turnovers, scored 42 points. We haven't done that in a long time because you can't have 20 turnovers and expect to do something like that. But I didn't think defensively we were great tonight at all, and give them credit. They hit some big shots, some deep shots, but it was the fouls where we were not doing our job on the defensive end, getting on the side of them. They were getting into it, and they do a good job of driving the ball and getting into your body and getting fouled. And we just weren't good enough tonight defensively to win a game on the road.
What did they do that made Santiago's life so hard offensively?
Well, we told him that. We said they're going to push you right. We're going to push you right. We're going to make it hard for you to get the ball. You know, we told him, don't fight it, just go. And we kept telling him he's good off the ball, but he needs to get off the ball more. The second half, we used him as a screener, and he got us back in the game because they were so locked in on him where we got the ball inside on those situations. But again, he continues to drive and lose the ball, and again, you can't let your point guard can't average 5-6 turnovers a game. He can't, and it's him trying to do too much. But he's played enough now that he's got to trust his teammates and let those guys handle the ball some.
Rick, what?
Played one shot at your house, scored 9 points, 37 tonight, and then Isaiah Joe back in the lineup. You guys are facing. Talk about those two, please, and their impact in this game.
Oh, they were the difference when you think about it. You know, Mason Jones was terrific. You know, you got to give him. We had no answer for him. You know, he did it inside. He got to the free throw line, which I respect that as much as anything. And he was feeling it, obviously, and he got going with it. And you know, again, that's as good a performance as we've seen all year against us.
And Rick, you know, you're seeing Isaiah Joe the first time around. How different are they with him? And what have you thought about the 2 games he's had after missing 5 and 21?
Well, he creates another gap for him because you can't get into the gap like you'd really want to. When you're playing against a team that really likes to drive the ball, you got to give that help. And he's a guy that you can't get off of him that far. And they move the ball well. You know, they're going to get you into those isolations, and you got to be able to guard the ball. But he's a guy that, again, he stretches the floor for him, and him coming back and doing that, I mean, good for them, and because they're definitely a different team with that group, and they played well tonight.
I'm surprised it was number 24 Henderson in their start early.
Well, we thought why'd they start him?
No. Just how was it kind of a surprise to you all since you hadn't played much? And
again, I think Eric's a terrific coach, man, and he knows we're going to go inside. And I think that they had a couple blocks, but that was Folky I mean, you get one block, that's fine, but he's got more to his game than just to turn and think he's going to casually put the ball up like that. That's what you're talking about, his defense. And I thought they were, again, we got the ball, we wanted the ball inside. We got it there and missed some critical free throws during that stretch too. You know, you can't miss those free throws when you're fighting to score every possession.
Yeah, Rick, I think you guys cut him from 16 down to 2, 45-43, and then I think Jones had a 3-point play, and Sills and Joe hit threes, and they got some cushion again. Well, what kind of happened during that stretch?
Well, you know, we got called for a flop foul. We got a guy that got knocked backwards, and you're at a disadvantage when there's no call and a guy's laying on the floor and there's 5 against 4. That's a tough situation. And then we get called for a charge.
Hello, 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 hello. It's Friday. It's our Friday edition. And it's our A edition of On the Hill with Pat Cheekin Sports Talk Radio. I want to give a shout out before we get going to our sponsors that makes this possible each and every day. With that being said, Lindsay and Associates with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. Corey Beck's Custom Painting, and the one that I love, and I don't know, may have to get rehab because of it. Go down to 989 and check out KDK's Chicken. Go down, see Keith and Kathy, get a plate of that love, and like they say on their building, it's not your mama's, the best chicken and waffles and everything else that you can imagine that you'd like to eat. They've got. Go down and check them out. But we came in with audio from Rick Barnes that we didn't get a chance to bring to you all yesterday following their loss to Arkansas here at Bud Walton Reed on the Old Richardson Court. And Arkansas moves on tomorrow to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. And as we all know, and I'm going to bring in my co-host, Demetrius Johnson. As we all know, Demetrius, every game from here on out for this basketball team, I mean, they're playing like it's the NCAA tournament play-in game that I feel. I mean, this is what I think that, Coach Muss and that staff are, basically, expressing to these young men.
My bad. I didn't know you were done with your statement, but definitely, I have to agree. I think Musselman's the type of coach to get his guys amped up right at the right time. I think they're peaking at the right time. Isaiah coming back off the injury, I think that was a good time for him to rest up and, take a mental approach to the game instead of a more physical game. So now I think guys have the opportunity to really come back 100%, and these guys understand what they're playing for. Like I said on yesterday's episode, I think Isaiah Joe and Mason Jones are in a very unique situation, having the opportunity to come back and play with a very talented team next year, or build their stock and put a resume together at the end of this postseason contest to really make an NBA resume. So I think they understand what's at stake and they're willing to put everything on the line, and you're really going to see it.
Question of today, we're going to have several questions, but our basketball question of the day: name me your player of the game. And we're going to do this. We're going to just say we know Mason and Isaiah are going to be players of the game. Name us your third player of the game for tomorrow as Arkansas travels to Georgia. Who's that player going to be, or players? Because I know here recently, and with this team, I guess you can say players because it takes at least four. When Arkansas has four more kids in double figures and really contributing to this basketball team, they've been quite successful throughout this season. I don't think that's going to be anything that goes unnoticed, but and then we're going to start it. Demetrius, my two players, Jimmy Witt and Ethan Henderson. I'll go with those two as players that I feel have to really have an impact in that paint. Ethan on the defensive side, really, and I think that Jimmy's going to have to really be shoot a high percentage from that mid-range, and he's going to draw, the tough assignment, Edwards. We all know that, a guy that many are projecting to go number one in the this summer's upcoming NBA draft. But that's I'm gonna go. Jimmy Witt Jr., Ethan Henderson. Demetrius, what two are you rolling with? Your two players outside of Isaiah Joe and Mason Jones. And for all our listeners, that's the basketball question of the day here on the A. Chime in and tell us your two and why you feel that those are gonna be the two guys. Go ahead, Dick.
I think my guys are. I'm gonna go Jalen Harris, and then I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Desi Seals.
Okay, I'll take Desi, but please get you another one for that other guy.
And I think he has to play better. You told me.
Absolutely.
You told me to bring guys that have to And I'm telling you, those are my two guys that have to come to and bring it. And I say Jalen, he's the point guard. He has to make those key decisions and can't come in the game just throwing up stuff. You know, sometimes he just looks discombobulated and out of the game. And I think he's the guy that mentally has to come into the game. I do like that Musselman has a little bit more of an option to kind of switch that lineup now that Ethan's kind of coming along. So if he does want to bump Desi down to that point guard and not necessarily play Jalen there, I think it still will work with a guard heavy lineup. So again, I think he's a guy that really has to step up. And then my second guy, Desi Seals, he has to be that he has to bring that consistency. I think he has to be that spark that continues to come off the bench. You know, again, I stated yesterday that although he's coming off the bench, he's getting starter minutes, right. And I don't really care who starts the game once the whistle blows, because you can make a sub a second into the game. So again, he has to be that spark that continues to play consistent, and when everybody is kind of stagnant, still bring that spark.
Man, the second OTH question of the day, and I know you're gonna like this one. Name me your 5 most important players for Sam Pittman in year 1 here at the University of Arkansas for this football team in 2020. Give me your 5 most important players. Demetrius, can you give me your 5?
That's a lot, because I really can't. I'll give you how about I give you 3, okay. and I'll give you guys that's still on the team, because I can't speak on guys that haven't got to campus.
I mean, the 5, they could be already on the current roster, incoming.
I mean, the reason why I don't want to do guys that's not on the roster, because I don't necessarily know how Sam Pittman plans to incorporate a lot of these guys. And I think, some of these guys do have the ability to play, but I know right now Sam Pittman is just going off of what he has on campus going into the spring. I think Mike Woods. I think he's a player that has to come to the game ready, because I think you already know what you get out of Traylon Burks and Trey Knox.
Right.
So I think if Mike Woods can be that third option that especially in those intermediate short routes that he can catch and make something happen, I think the offense will really go to another level. Not a one guy, but I'll just say a unit for my second. I'm gonna say the entire offensive line.
Right.
That unit, because I don't really know who's gonna go out there and play on the offensive line. I think it's gonna be so. I think everything's open. I think Sam Pittman is definitely gonna start with a fresh slate, and there is no starting 5 right now. So I'm just gonna go with the unit as a whole. That offensive line has to step up. And then third, I'm gonna try to find one defensive player that has to be an impact player. Kind of now that Harris is gone, Dijon is gone, so I'll go.
Dijon and Cam both gone.
Let me think of a defensive player that just has to. The guy from Oklahoma.
I think I got a couple.
What's the guy? What is it, Zach? The guy that transferred from the linebacker that transferred from Oklahoma.
Going with Draper.
Yes, Levi Draper. I think he's the guy that has to come in this season and really use his opportunity to his advantage. He's the guy that played over at Oklahoma, but he didn't necessarily get a lot of playing time due to injuries. And I think if he can come here and put a great senior season together, he can still, kind of vouch for that NFL position.
My 5, and I'm going to go with 5. I'm going to go, of course, Rakeem Boyd. I mean, we all know if he has the type of year. I'm going to go Trey Knox. I think Trey Knox, and I'm going to go Traylon Burks. I'll flip over defensively. I'm going to go Matea Soli. And I'm going to say Joe Fouché. I'm going to go with those 5 guys. I think you're going to get.
Can you say it one more time for me?
I'm going to go with
Rakeem
Boyd, Trey and Traylon, Knox and Burks. I'm going to go with Matea Soli.
I forgot about Soli.
I went with Joe Fouché. And when you look at that, the part when I say that, it kind of surprises me, Demetrius, is that I didn't even mention a guy that showed in game 1 last year. Had he been on that defensive line with most of those guys, Dorian Gerald, I mean, they played pretty well in game 1 as a unit. I thought I didn't mention John Marshall. I really feel like John Marshall could be a guy in his senior year that could really be a force on that front under Coach Derek LeBlanc. I think there's going to be a big-time transformation, Bubba. I didn't say Xavier Kelly, a guy that's played in multiple national championships games on the defensive line. I mean, comes from a great tradition of winning. I mean, we didn't mention those. We didn't even say Felipe Franks.
Yeah.
Talk about that. I mean, and I mean, how surprising is that here we are talking about a team that's went 4-20, but we didn't mention. I mean, you mentioned one of the 5 grad transfers that, quite obviously, Demetrius, are going to have impacts. But in our humble opinion, watching this roster and having a chance to kind of get a feel for that staff, we didn't mention those guys.
You know, I think I don't want to say the quarterback can play mediocre if these other surrounding positions play up to par where I think they can play. But I think you can have a guy that can be a game manager. He doesn't necessarily have to be a superstar if some of these other pieces come together. Like, I'm telling you, if you have Trey Knox, Burks, Traylon Burks, and Michael Woods, and then maybe a 4th option, you know, we'll even go Rakeem Boyd.
Right.
You're talking about 4 impact players, and I think of football in triangles. If you look at a triangle, even from athletic skill positions, that's dangerous.
Right.
And then you throw in a quarterback, even if you threw in Felipe Franks, you know, even if he isn't that, dual threat with his feet, I think there's so many weapons around him that can do so many different things that if the offensive line, again, gels together and these key offensive players around the quarterback position pan out the way I think they can pan out, man, the quarterback can be mediocre and they still will be a high-octane offense because everything is just going to be so fluid, especially with Sam Pittman. You've seen what he can do with offensive lines in a year. You know, he's going to transform the way our offensive line looks. And I think, you know, Coach Stepp doesn't really get a lot of credit. You know, you've always been very high on Coach Stepp, and I kind of slept on Coach Stepp because I was one of those guys like, you know, if I had a Traylon Burks and a Trey Knox, I'm going to look like a great receiver coach. But I think Coach Stepp has proven, you know, with Coach Sam Pittman retaining him, that he brings value to the table and he understands the wide receiver position. And I think he's going to elevate these guys' play. And I think Sam Pittman is really going to give him the room to really coach the way he needs to, maybe a different way than Chad Morris allowed him to be hands-on and do some certain things with the receivers.
I think, you know, that was the best thing in my opinion was Justin, Coach Stepp, stepping away from that previous staff and going out and starting to learn under a lot of different offensive minds. I think he and Kendall Briles, I think that combination, along with Coach Brad Davis, Jimmy Smith, and John Cooper, I think Arkansas offensively will have a chemistry within their coaching staff that hadn't been seen around here in a long time. I'm just going to say it, quite a while. I mean, back in the days when, you know, I used to be that little old bitty snotty-nosed kid walking around and seeing some of the Frank Broyles, some of the Ken Hatfield guys, those type of teams. I think that's what that coaching staff is going to start. And you can kind of tell when you watch some of the social media, Demetrius, these videos of their strength and conditioning program, you can see a lot of encouragement. Just a different – it just seems like a different attitude. But we're going to flip over, get this thing going. You know, we always talk about basketball. And one of the guys that we like to have on to give us the 411, Scotty Borland of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. He'll be up next. We're going to talk Arkansas, Isaiah Joe. We'll wrap up and put a bow on that big win they had this past Wednesday versus the Tennessee Volunteers and look ahead to Georgia. And, you know, in Scotty's opinion, how much does this basketball team under Coach Muss have to do to make a run and possibly, you know, continue to play not the NIT, but that in that big tournament in March? All that's coming up. It's on the Hill, and it's the A on KDSJ 479. Let's get it.
tomorrow, 2 in here with Coach. With that, Coach, you just start off with a quick statement.
Yeah, I just thought, the focus last couple days, phenomenal. We talked over and over about trying to get off to a good start. When we talked the other day in our media session, we talked about, trying to make some adjustments the second time you play a team. And, I thought defensively Jimmy Witt was great on Santiago Vescovi. Obviously, Ethan Henderson's energy on the glass was phenomenal tonight. And, Mason and Isaiah's ability to draw free throws attempted. And again, that defending the three-point line becomes so important for us. And we did another great job of taking away the three ball tonight. And I thought we played with great pace, 14-0 in fast break points and then points off of turnovers. Although Tennessee didn't have a high volume of just 12 turnovers, we turned those into points. And I thought that was really a key to the game, is live ball turnovers as opposed to dead ball turnovers.
Mason Jones and the season he's having.
Welcome back. Welcome back. It's the A edition here on OTH. It's our Friday edition on KDSJ 479 as we come to you 1 to 2 p.m. And we're bringing in that man. He knows it all, and I like to get him to tell it to you all. Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Scotty B, welcome back to OTH, my brother.
It's good to be back with you, man. How are you guys doing?
I thought you forgot about us, man. Hadn't had you on and got any
I
of
thought
your...
y'all forgot about me. What's going on?
No, how can we forget about the Mr. 411? I mean, I can't forget about you.
I know you've been busy calling Tuesday Fayetteville High games, so I guess I get it.
Scotty, let's get off into it, bud. Met with Coach Musselman yesterday in his weekly media availability to preview Georgia. But I want to go back to the previous two games since we hadn't had you on. Isaiah Joe comes back into the lineup this past weekend versus Missouri, also Tennessee. And it just seems, Scotty, from his insertion in the lineup, this team goes back to the team that we saw earlier with that different swag. Where are you with the past two games? Talk about that, and what was it, that Arkansas outside of Isaiah Joe was missing when they had that terrible 5-game losing streak?
Yeah, I really think Isaiah was, he was a lot of the reason for Arkansas' struggles. He's a guy that obviously can space the floor, and this isn't a great three-point shooting team even with him, I wouldn't say. But without him, it becomes really a struggle because, without Isaiah, Adriel Bailey statistically is your second-best three-point shooter.
Right.
That's I don't think that's a place that you necessarily want to be. But with Isaiah back, I think everybody's just kind of back to clicking on all cylinders. Everybody's back in their role that they feel really comfortable with, and that role that they were in, when this team was 16-5 with them. But Isaiah back, Arkansas, according to KenPom, they posted 2 of their 4 best offensive efficiency numbers of the season in the 2 games that he's been back. So that's really big, and that also tells me that Isaiah, in the 2 games that he has been back, that he's feeling really comfortable. And in his, off the bounce, I think he almost looks fresh post-surgery, which is kind of strange to say. But with Isaiah being back, this team is just completely different. And I think they're playing with, like you said, they're playing with some swagger and playing with a ton of confidence, which is good to see.
A guy that we watched last year sit the bench the entire season and for most of this season. We saw some little cameo appearances early in the year. Now we've seen this Ethan Henderson over the last 2 games, and what stood out to me is his ability to get off the floor. Eric Musselman told us about a little over a month or so ago about the conversation he had with Tom Crean and what Tom Crean told him about active rebounders. It seems like, with the insertion of Ethan, that's what Arkansas is finally starting to get, a long body that's really going to go in there and be very active and just go get the ball. Don't look at it. Ethan had 9 rebounds. Talk about, his progression, and if he can continue to do this and they can get something out of 24, Adrio, and somehow find a way to get RC into the ballgame, Reggie Chaney. mean, how could this inside game help this team make it to the tournament? Because that's essential, the end goal.
Oh, for sure. Anytime, Arkansas obviously is not a great rebounding team. Anytime you get a lift from a guy like Ethan, it's a huge plus. And he finished with a career high 9 rebounds the other night, and he had 4 offensive rebounds. And I think 3 came in the first 4 minutes before the first media stoppage of the game, and that was great. Obviously Arkansas doesn't have like a true rim protector, in a traditional sense, but I think Ethan can provide you some of those things. I think he got credited, I think, with 3 blocks the other night, but rewatching the game, I think he easily could have been given 4. And, he came into the post game
Right.
on Wednesday. He was talking about how they shorted him a couple of steals. Yeah, I think he was pretty spot on with that. I think he played his interior defense was solid. Not even just the rim protection that he gave. I think it was, he fronted Tennessee's bigs pretty well. Was able to knock some balls away and create transition opportunities. Like you said, he is a guy that can get off the floor, obviously quicker than a lot of guys can. Like his second jump is the best on Arkansas's roster, according to Eric Musselman. So, it's another big thing. Like Ethan played 30 seconds in the game on Saturday, and then he plays 30 minutes on Wednesday. A lot of that has to do with just his early production when he was on the floor. Like he provided a huge spark, and he stayed out of foul trouble, just 3 fouls in 30 minutes. And, he's a really a high foul guy. Like he averages almost 8 fouls per 40 minutes played.
Right.
So he kept his fouls down, was able to stay on the floor, and that's what they need. He gave them exactly what they needed.
Talking with Scotty Borderland here on OTH from Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Scotty, a stat that I've been paying close attention to, and it correlates to the officiating. A lot of fans get disgruntled by the amount of free throws that teams are shooting. Well, it's the same thing. It works for Arkansas. I was looking, and Arkansas when they're an attacking team, like they were on Wednesday night. Isaiah Joe and Mason drew 18 fouls, hence shot 27 free throws. Out of the 24 fouls that were committed, 18, they shoot 27. This is an attacking basketball team, and so leads into my second question. How important will it be for Arkansas to continue to attack the rim, but also when you get Jimmy Witt and, the guy that you've been really high on, Desi Seals, when you get them going, talk about, their ability to continue to attack the rim, and how much different are they when that's a part of their game?
Yeah, like I said earlier, this isn't a great 3-point shooting team. And you've got a guy like Mason Jones. He ranks second in the entire country in fouls drawn per 40 minutes, according to Ken Palm, which is pretty unbelievable.
Right.
Mason's he's had multiple games, probably close to 6 or 8, where he's drawn 9 or more fouls. I think he drew like 13 against Mississippi State a couple weeks ago. Like that's he's got a lot of strengths, but that's probably up there. It might be 1A or 1B.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, anytime, like this team's pretty solid off the bounce. Like you've got like Desi is obviously he's starting to heat up from the perimeter, but you could argue that the best thing that he brings to the floor outside of his energy and his toughness is him. He's 6'1", but he thinks he's 6'7".
Right.
So he drives to the rim with that tough, fearless mentality. That's kind of what Arkansas needs. And Jalen Harris hasn't been the greatest finishing in the lane this year, but he's another guy that can kind of get into the lane off penetration and create for others. So that's a plus too.
We watched
a
little social media that Arkansas puts out through their basketball program last Saturday when Arkansas won. They were in the locker room. Coach Must laid down and act like they were getting up out of the coffin. Yeah. Which leads me into my next question. There's a lot to be done. This team is sitting at 6-9, 18-10 on the season. How much more does this team have to do, Scotty, to be able to have a legitimate shot to get in that NCAA tournament? And also, too, how much will the committee take into account of Isaiah being out those 5 games?
Yeah, Arkansas definitely still has some work to do with the 18-10 and 6-9 in the league. I think you obviously want to try to get back to 500 in conference play by the end of the regular season and go into the conference tournament with a lot of momentum. Because the committee does take into consideration how well you're playing,
Right.
toward the end of the season. And if Arkansas goes into the SEC tournament on a 5-game winning streak, like they're going to be a team that's being talked about quite a bit as one of those hot teams that you need to keep an eye on that could pick up an at-large berth. I think Saturday's game is obviously the next game. This sounds like coach speak, but obviously the next game is obviously the biggest game. Like Arkansas needs to beat Georgia to continue to, that's another opportunity. That's another winnable road game. Those road games are so valuable. And Georgia, I think, is 4-11 in the league, so they're not a team that's a team that you should be able to beat, especially when you're full strength.
Good point.
And then you get next Tuesday, you got LSU. That's the best team remaining on your schedule. And Arkansas has missed some opportunities at home. I think LSU, regardless if they're ranked or not, that's a top 25 caliber team
Yes.
when they're playing well. So I think there's an opportunity there. And then Texas A&M, is a team that maybe kind of surprised some people in conference play too. And Reed Arena can be kind of a tough venue to win in. Kentucky can tell you that they only won there by 9. They only won there by 9 this week. So there's
point.
definitely opportunity there. A lot of work to be done, obviously, with 2 road games and a pretty tough team at home coming in next week.
Got one last question before I let you go. Outside of Mason Jones and Isaiah Joe, let's take them off the table. Give me your player of the game in tomorrow's big road test versus Georgia for the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah, I think the key player to keep an eye on is Desi. I wrote about him yesterday. He's come off the bench now. He's kind of settled into a bench role, and you brought that up. I think it was Saturday when Desi went for 17 against Missouri. He plays with a chip on his shoulder off the bench, and he's scoring over 14 points a game and shooting almost 60% from 3 in those 4 games that he comes off the bench, which is pretty ridiculous.
Right.
But I asked Eric Musselman just what he thought about Desi's play of late, and Musselman talked about how Desi needs to carry that play on the road because those 4 games that he's come off the bench so far and played well have all been in Bud Walton. And so there's a little bit of comfortability there. He's shooting under, I think, 28% from 3 in Arkansas's 10 true road games this year. So I think if Desi, can continue to come off the bench and continue to, pack a punch, kind of like Lou Williams does for the Clippers off the bench, like Mason said, I think Arkansas will be in terrific shape.
Now, real quick before we let you go, Scotty, why don't you tell our listeners and viewers, how they can continue to follow all of your material as you do such a great job covering both the men's basketball and the football program.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at NWA Scotty, and you can listen to me and Seth Campbell do a basketball podcast every week. It's called the Basketball Podcast of Mid-America. You can find that on Spotify, on SoundCloud. You can go to Whole Hog Sports and click on the story file there. It's obviously free to listen to, but happy to be on with Pat Jenkins again. It's good to be back with you, dude.
All right, bud. Thanks for your time, man. I'm sure we'll catch each other down in the media or somewhere up on press row before this week is over. But hey, have a blessed one, Scotty, my man.
All right, thanks. Y'all have a good one.
All right. We're going to continue on. That was Scotty Borland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, but we're going to play a little bit more of the Eric Musselman post game previewing this Saturday's big road win or road test versus the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll be back. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Let's get it. That's a good interview, Doc. Scotty gave us a lot of poetry.
Razorback fans.
And no matter what,
Cheers.
you can't allow Joe.
Jimmy
Jimmy Witt Jr. plays the left hand of Vescovi, although he can go right and he can shoot fadeaways because he's a terrific jump shooter.
Another
Active hands
steal
again.
for
Wow.
Arkansas. Here's Witt, and he will defer instead. Oh, he was going to take that all the way. Instead, finds an open shooter at the top. It's Harris on the three. Arkansas raining three-point shots in this first half. Into the corner to Sills, 8 on the shot clock.
And the bigs for Tennessee are out front trying to chase the smaller players for Arkansas. Hard to do because they can put it on the floor, finish at the rim.
Coming by
Off the
Tennessee.
bounce.
Little weave action. Bowden got a good look at it. Left it short, and that's how the half will come to a close. Arkansas with some of their best basketball of the season. A great 20 minutes for the
Tennessee turnovers, and that's almost half your points. And that's a battle you want to win. Great first play of the second half, easily executed. Two-punch.
Adriel
Either one
Bailey.
can get 30 or 40 on you, and you put them both in the lineup. This is a different squad.
Pons, top floor on the release, gets the foul.
A rarity.
Bowden, rise and fire on the three. Jordan Bowden, certainly the one guy that can get
Teams in the
Tennessee
country will
back in
probably
this
go
game.
500.
Yeah, exactly.
Now win a few, lose a few. So if you can get on a roll down the end and you give those human beings in a committee room reason to put you in, I think the SEC will get 16. If they
Welcome back, welcome back. It's the OTH here on KDSJ 479. It's our A edition that we bring to you each and every Friday. Each Friday, I should say, from 1 to 2 p.m. And we let you see video from this past Wednesday's must-win of the Arkansas Razorbacks as they held serve at home 86-59 over the Tennessee Volunteers. Mason Jones, 37 points. Isaiah Joe, 22 points. Just a great all-around basketball game, and we want to get in because we always like to at least try to get in a few questions from our viewers and comments. And Nick Lee, once again, great comment, Nick. Nick says, if Jimmy Witt guards and keeps Anthony Edwards under 12 points, he will be my MVP. Great question, and I think, as always, Jimmy will or should, or we should assume, is going to draw the toughest defense assignment, that being Anthony Edwards, the true freshman there at Georgia. But at the same time, 12 points, I think what you really want to shoot for is keeping him under 20. And, if you can keep him around that 17 to 19, he may get 20. I mean, this is a guy that's he's a bucket getter. I mean, you used to say you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. I think that's going to be the biggest difference. The key is not letting, the other guys surrounding Edwards get going. If you can make them beat you from the outside, I think Arkansas, the biggest key in tomorrow's game, continue to be that great, the three-point defensive team that you've been. And I think you're going to have your best chance to win the game. Arkansas is only allowing their opponents 25.4%. From the three-point line. I think if they can continue to do that, they're going to be in a lot of games. Defense keeps you in games. Offense puts you over the hump. But if you always play defense, that's the one thing that will travel. Offense doesn't always travel. Defense travels. And if you can keep that mentality, I mean, this Arkansas team, I've said it, those that have listened all week, I felt like this Arkansas team and the way they play defense and just the lineup is made for once we get into tournament play in Nashville and beyond. I think that's when that small guard lineup that Arkansas and Coach Musselman used so effectively in the beginning of the year and have gone back to here over the previous two games. It's just a matchup problem. I mean, it's hard for a 6'9" guy to go out and guard a very skilled 6'4", 6'5" guard that can put it on the floor, get to the rack. With the way the game is going, those 6'6", 6'7" guys that can put it on the floor, those are starting to be the guys that every program aspires to have on their team because of the versatility, Demetrius.
My bad, Pat. I was kind of zoned out.
Hey, doing what you got to do.
What was your last comment?
Nick Lee says if we win the rest of our regular season games, we'll be all right to lose first game of the SEC tournament. I think Arkansas is going to have to win at least one or two games. I think it's going to take at least 22 wins, possibly 23 for this team to get in, because if you do the 23, Arkansas, when Isaiah came back, Arkansas was 16-10. So if you have a winning streak that's those, that can make up those 5 that you drop and add you 2 more on top, then that's a 7-game win streak. You go +2. I think if you're sitting there at 23-10, I think the committee cannot, because when you get to the SEC tournament, you're talking about quad one. It's always those quad one wins that everybody likes to talk about when we get down to the NCAA tournament. I think Arkansas with SEC, there's going to be 7 opportunities at the SEC tournament to get 2 more. So I think it's going to take 23, Dimitri.
Again, I've been talking all week and saying that semifinals. I need to see Arkansas in the semifinals because I think that's going to give them an undeniable reason why they should be in that tournament, and they'll be playing at the peak at the end of the season. I think the committee will really take that in consideration as they'll be competing against the top teams in the SEC versus being ranked, coming in at, what are we, 10?
Yes.
So, then you're talking about competing with the top 4 if you make it to the semifinals. So then you can kind of boast for their resume as being one of the best contender teams in your conference.
I think if you're sitting there 23-10, 9-9 in league play, so you went 500 in the regular season, and I think that's really big when you consider that Isaiah was out for 5 of those 9 losses. That has to be something that the committee will continuously look at. Plus, I think when you have 2 of the better players, and I think 2 guys that could possibly are guys that you're going to have on the first and second team All SEC. I think Mason's clearly going to be a first teamer when the coaches and the AP votes come out, and I think Isaiah, I think some of the coaches may have this young man on the first team, but I know for sure that he's going to be a second teamer. If he's first team, I'm not going to be surprised because I think he's the best shooter in the SEC. My humble opinion, but I think that's what it's going to take, is about 22, 23 wins. Hopefully finish at 500, 9-9. You went out, you've done enough, and you've created enough buzz about how hot you are that I think the committee, and plus, with the way that Coach Musselman has done at his prior stop at Nevada, haven't been in the tournament the previous 4 years. I know several years ago his Nevada ball club made a real deep run and kind of created a lot of excitement. I know people around the country and many fans that weren't even Nevada fans. You had that, that little Cinderella that was going right along. So I think with that being said, he created enough respect by how his teams play, because the NCAA has had a chance to see the Must Bus go to work once he gets in the tournament. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Make a note, if you want to catch tonight's ball game, as we will be broadcasting, Fayetteville Bulldogs girls and boys basketball as they travel tonight in the conference 6A West finale to Wildcat Arena to take on the Harbor Wildcats of Springdale. You can catch that in its entirety on Red Dirt 106.1 FM at 6 p.m. We'll be on with the girls' game. I'll be on the call play-by-play, and the boys' game will follow that at 7:30. Producing will be Demetrius Johnson and myself. We do it all. You can catch that, though. Just tune in tonight at 6 o'clock, and then you can catch us on FM 106.1. For myself, give a shout-out to all of our sponsors today, Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also, too, in Rogers. Locomotion, it's located just below Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. Corey Beck's Custom Painting, and lastly, you know what I'm talking about. You guessed it. Go down 989 Razorback Road and see my buddy Keith and Kathy. Get a play of that love, and like they say, it's not your mama's. Want to give a thank you to our guest, Scotty Borland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, for coming on and giving us his thoughts on Eric Musselman's basketball team and just where the Hogs seem to be, what path they seem to be going down. I think it's a pretty positive one. That's going to do it for myself, from my producer, Demetrius, to you all. You guys have a blessed one. Once again, we will not be on the air Monday as we're doing one more tech issue, and we'll be back Tuesday, raring to go with more information to bring you. You guys have a great weekend. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Y'all have a blessed one, and you know what I say. Let's get it.
Baby God.